Well, and okay.
No, go ahead. Okay.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to macro stuff, right?
We'll
Like,
speak to macro stuff.
so, I mean, but that what you're getting at is the divide in American life today, right?
Mm-hmm.
In at least in quote unquote white America, just to put it in Eminem's words, right? Politics among whites right now is either equality or the politics of resentment is powerful, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
seen that over the last half of a decade. And does everyone that votes for one party believe in all of the bigoted stuff that comes with a certain way? No, of course not, right? But the politics of resentment is powerful, and as the dynamic is shifting, and as the go back to the beginning of the show, when you said, okay, well, there's this either some kind of equality or an illusion of equality, and maybe it stems from the likes that everybody belonged to the AW or whatever it was as incomes have fallen across the board, as middle class whites have felt pressure, income pressure, just terrible income pressure the last couple of decades. They see the resentment, right? And everyone will always pick, the easiest thing to do is pick the other person's fault, right? Some other person's taking power away from me, some other person, I'm losing to somebody else, right? And that resentment politics has been fueled, right? I mean, this stuff goes all the way back to the Civil War, and when the totally different discussion about this goes back to white slave owners freeing white slaves in order to get the poor whites on their side to keep the black slaves down, right? And it's all the same dynamic macroly.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, pause. Where was I going with that?
We'll edit this out.
No, right. I'm just like, where was I going?
Old age, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Old age, ladies and gentlemen. He's
No,
getting
well,
old,
I
folks.
had other stories that went back to like how people over here do things and stuff.
I'm keeping this in the show. This is the first one. I'm keeping it. Warts and all.
I had other stories about.
Well, so
not being oblivious, but
so I think what we've touched on and what we hit on is, especially with our interactions, right? I mean, I've known you boys for 25 years. Is who you guys are and who I am is because we had those interactions, and we've only had those interactions because of the uniqueness or perceived uniqueness of Downriver. Is that can we have that widespread? Is that what people actually want when we say we want, equality for all, we want, tolerance for all, we want, everything equal per se? And I mean equal, I mean not just racially, but financially, class. Jamie, you spoke on that, before.
Okay.
Is that actually what we want?
Well, here's a question then for you: what is your opinion between the difference between equality versus equity?
Okay, so
because what comes to mind is the illustration, right?
Right, with the boxes.
You have a fence and you have three different heighted people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have three boxes. One guy can stand on it, you have three boxes, each person gets a box. That's equality.
Mm-hmm. Right.
One person can see just fine because he's way over the fence. One guy can just barely see over the fence, but he can see over, and one guy can't see at all, even though they all have that same box.
Yeah.
That's equality.
That is equality. So equity would mean someone would have to lose an advantage.
The guy who can stand with no box can still see over that fence.
Right.
The guy who with that single box can still see over. The guy who only needed one who can't see now has two and can see. Now they all can see over that fence.
Now they all can see.
And that's that illustration. That's equity.
That is.
So what are we going for?
So I think as children of this earth, we all think we want equality because it sounds good and it's simpler to understand, right? To know that, hey, I can drink from the same drinking fountain as you. Your kids can go to the same schools as my children. I can go vote. My vote counts as much as your vote. and I could talk to the police the way you talk to the police and I won't get shot, right? That idea of equality is what we believe we want. Equity is so much more harder to achieve because that means someone has to lose something, or at least in their mind something has to lose something, right? So in order for, I'll use this as an example, right? The equity of what we would think we want is players getting paid for college sports, right? The equitable thing would be pay the players, because the coach is getting millions of dollars, the school is getting millions, if not billions of dollars, NCAA is getting millions, not billions of dollars. But the players get what? A jersey and a pat on the back. That's not quote unquote equal, but that's also not equitable. Why? Because if that player blows out his knee, he gets no more money. That's it. It's over. the job is done.
Right.
Coach Nick Saban, Coach whoever, excuse me, Nick Saban, Coach, that's gonna edit out. Coach X still gets his bread because he had the what am I looking for? Head start, if you will, financially, to where even if you have them as equal as human, hey, you can play for me as equals. Your spot on the team is just as the same as the quarterbacks. Equitable wise, nah, man, that player is worth more than you. For that to happen on a large scale.
So let's tie that back into the Downriver bubble, right? So Downriver, I would say, we'll just call it equal when it comes to class, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But then you have that, equity. That's where I think that white privilege steps in. I have those two boxes because I could leave the Downriver because I'm a white male. I have the opportunity.
But see now, and that's where it gets confusing with the Downriver white person, because they will look at you and go, well, "Wait a minute, right. I don't have any financial advantages
because we're equal.
Because we're equal.
Class.
We're class, right? We all went to the same high schools. Our parents all worked at the same automotive plant or did the same things, right? We went to the same colleges. I don't have any advantage. I am just as broken poor as not a white person. So there is no difference of equitable reasons.
Oh, they see those even boxes.
Except the problem is so minute. Is an example, right? I know people who job hop, right? And I look at them and I go, the thing of advantage is not, it does not guarantee you a life, right? Having advantages and privileges does not mean that you're white, so you're gonna be a millionaire. That's not what that means. It means is that certain obstacles that you face in life will not be based off the color of your skin. Help me brain slow down. Okay. I know people specifically who job hop all the time, and I look at them and I go, man, if you would just stop, smoking weed. Now, there's not wrong with smoking weed, but if you could just stop smoking weed for like 2 weeks, you could get a better job. If you would just cover up the neck tattoo, you could be a better job. That's the advantages that they have that I don't, where I could come in looking like Carlton from Fresh Prince and they could still go, next. That's the part that Downriver person doesn't understand or don't see, because using your example, we all have the same boxes and it's not the same.
Right.
I realized what I was going to say earlier. Where I was going with that story. All right. What I was going to do, I was going to flip what you asked Damien about, what does he have to teach his kids, right? And what you saw, the last several years, the national politics and everything, you saw the reverse in a lot of situations, right? I know families from Downriver, families that helped raise me, that the parents have bought into the politics of resentment and are very anti-immigrant, are kind of this and that, and their kids, people that we grew up with, that our childhood friends and stuff, would kind of call up their parents, or they'd say, their parents would say, oh, we love so-and-so, our kid's friend, like, who happens to be African American. Oh, we love you. We were one of our favorite, non-kid kids. Like, we love you. Went to their wedding. Across the country, go to this person's wedding, and yet spout all of the resentment, politics stuff that these people are taking our jobs, other people are this, you know, and it's like, and some of their kids sit back and Mom, Dad, you taught us to love everybody. And I'm sorry that you feel the way you do, but what you believe in, what you're spouting right now, hurts this person you claim to love. Right? You put the economics and the you know the religious cultural issues, you know, the wedge issues, quote unquote, to the side. But bare bones, like when we buy into the politics of resentment, and that these people are taking our jobs, or these people are this, and you know, the white society is under attack, or whatever your basis for that is. And then you turn around and say, "Oh, I love you. You know, love you, my son's African American friend. I crossed the country to go to your wedding." There is some kind of cognitive dissonance there. That, you know, I saw this. Some of our friends that we grew up with, called their parents out on this. Their parents weren't happy about it. You know, but so you see it both ways, right? Like, can the kids save the adults? Can the adults save the kids? You know, like.
So. Well, that, I mean, I guess that leads to my last question: is that how we change Downriver, you know, Caucasian person? Is that how we, you know, let them open their eyes to their illicit biases? You know what I mean? That they're, like you said, there are constant differences where they don't think that what they have drips of the ism or the ist, or holds people back, but it actually does, because that Downriver, in my opinion, is really the microcosm of progressive person, right? They're so woke and progressive that no one can tell them anything, right? You know, if something is said, you know, where they like to use the word, well, that person's a thug, and I'm like, well, maybe we should not use thug, because thug could be a code name for the N-word, and that's been no, I have 3 black friends. I know what I'm talking about, and then nothing ever gets learned, right? You know, nothing ever gets progress forward, because they think they know more, what's better for us.
I mean, it's stuff that I can get away. I think it's a different conversation. Stuff that I can get away with, that I've always gotten away with me saying to you, and then I go and say it in a group of, and then I go and say it in a group of all white people, and I go, Keith, you can't say that. And I'm like, it's totally different than the white guy at the party with all the black people saying the N-word, right?
Right.
It's me going to a crowd of all white people and them thinking I'm the racist, right? And because I made some joke, and I'm like, I forgot what room I'm in.
Well, is that so? I mean, is that the kids? Is that the uncomfortability? Is that how we change, or can we? You know, I mean, Keith, you brought up something. Damien, I think you had left real quick, but Keith had brought up something that maybe Downriver isn't as unique as we think it is. Like, maybe Taylor, where we grew up itself, is unique, but the cities outside of Taylor, when you actually think about it, aren't any different from the segregated parts of Chicago, aren't any different from places up north, aren't any different from, you know, places down south or in the east. You know, so
what I was telling Lamont was, you know, we think of our childhood as growing up as, you know, this melting pot. We lived with all the races. We were all equal. You know, it was what it was. And being as an kind of living as an outsider now for 15 years, I see it almost like it was special and kind of unique, but at the same time, it's also just a microcosm of everything else, right?
Right.
But the bubble in Downriver just happens to be smaller than the rest, right? You take Downriver, you can actually blow it up, and it becomes the Metro Detroit area, between Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne County, right? And then you come over to Grand Rapids, I can go through Ottawa and Kent County, and I can duplicate the name of the town, of the city or township in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, and plant it in Kent or Ottawa. It's the same thing. There's a ring, there's the inner city, then there's an inner ring of suburbs, there's the African American suburbs, there's the Latino suburbs, there's the Asians live here, the certain trades of whites live here, and other certain trades of whites live here, the religious whites live over here, the professors live here, and I can go around the ring and point you to Novi is this city, Taylor is this city, Dearborn Heights is this city, Inkster is this city.
Mhm.
You know, and it's just this more condensed bubble. And you know, we lived in Taylor. It was, you know, Inkster is very African American. Allen Park, Southgate, Trenton, very white.
Yeah.
Dearborn Heights. Dearborn Heights has 3 high schools.
Yeah.
They're not mixed. Right? I mean, maybe they are today, but when we were school, there was a white school, a black school,
Yeah.
and an American school, right?
Yeah, no, Robichaud is a very African American based school. Crestwood's I think Crestwood's Caucasian, I
The east
believe.
of Taylor is very Caucasian. The west of Taylor is very black. To the north of Taylor has segregated pockets, and to the south of Taylor is very white. Right? We happen to live in the spot where it all came together. And that was the unique spot, is that it was actually a much smaller bubble than even.
So now that there's only one high school in Taylor, do you think it'll be better? Because looking back, now,
Well, when we were there was 3,500 students between the 2 schools. Now there's.
But you also, but my thing was you said, you know, Downriver or Taylor's more woke, as you had put it. But even Taylor, when we were going to high school, like we were, you know, kind of saying, I think before all this was, Truman was your predominantly, that was your predominantly African American school.
Right.
That's, that's where the majority of the population went.
Right.
You know, so you say it's woke, but then that takes you that class side of things of that's where the Section 8 housing ended up kind of going to school. So even then, we are still separated even within Taylor, and we just never really paid much attention to it. Not that we didn't pay attention to it, but we weren't really aware of it.
I mean, Southwest Taylor has always been way different than Northeast Taylor.
Yeah.
Right? The Ponds is the Ponds. You have Pickwick in the Northeast, but the white auto worker section living along the highway in Northeast Taylor versus what, when our parents were growing up, it was called Sin City.
So is that duplicable? How are we able to duplicate that? Now that you've taken the bubble, what I perceive the bubble, and you've made it smaller. You made it smaller.
Bubble smaller.
Is
school districts.
Yeah.
Right, with the education, right? So you have to.
All states have countywide school districts.
Right, so that's kind of what they try to do with integration, right? I mean, with the 1955 Brown versus Board education, like they try to force integration. The problem is that it wasn't until 1973 that I have to go back and look at it, but majority of those schools for 20 years had integrated. And I think that's ultimately, I agree with you when you talk about the education and the mixing, where
educational segregation is worse today. When you actually look at the numbers.
When you actually look at the numbers, segregation is worse. But because it's 2021 and we don't want to be associated with our grandfathers and our great grandfathers, we tend to believe that it's better. But the illusion is actually so. What we need to do is break the illusion, right, and inform people, hey, this bubble that we think we live in, this wokeness, this equality or equity that we perceive it have is actually not real. Let's talk about it and actually make real action so we can change it, because even with education, you still got school of choice, right? I mean, how many students get yanked out of Taylor and get sent to better school districts? Because, how many kids go to Wyandotte because it's a better school district, or Trenton because it's a better school district? Why is it a better school district? You know what I mean?
Here's the thing is Allen Park School District, so they have that school choice, right? Mm-hmm. They'll accept 50 kids for first grade. 380 kids applied for those 50 spots. Just downriver, and that's first grade. That's just first grade. And so that's that. So everybody's trying to get in. Well, I should say get out.
Everyone's movie reference. Everyone's trying to. everyone's trying to get in or everyone get out because they know that's a better district, right? And so now when you talk about who off the list gets picked, then you start walking down these roads of why did they get paid? Oh, what do these people look like? How much money did they have? Like you start finding into those situations. But ultimately, is what we're asking for is socialism? Is that what we're asking for, where everyone, no matter what you are, is the same, so we all can have this belief that the utopia can happen? Because
but is that where we run into that equity versus equality?
Is that we want equity versus equality? Because I mean, the problem with socialism and communism is because everyone had to be poor, and we don't want to be poor, but everybody can't be rich either because we start wilding out because you can't trust half a Taylor with money. Okay. So I mean, I guess that for the question that I posed and for your guys' responses, man, I don't think it's what we believe we want. Damien, I believe what you say, Damien, is that we believe we want equality, but what we should strive for is equity. Yeah. To have not just the financial classes be where they're at, but raised, right? And with raised finances, more money being poured in, you now have better school districts and better education, and now you get a better mixing of Black, white, Latino. You get a better melding of those situations, which then makes the communities themselves better, the housing better. Now we're all a happy utopia. But as long as it's
not race-based, it's a gender-based quote, but a famous Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote is, she pioneered sex discrimination cases, and we watch her movie on the basis of sex and everything, and how she started with taking cases where men were discriminated against and worked backward in that way. It proved like, no, government discriminating against men, that's bad. Oh wait, can't do it the other way too, right?
Right.
But her famous quote is, "I ask no favor of my sex. I only ask that they take their feet off our neck." It's the same concept, right? Like,
right.
Doesn't ask for special treatment, doesn't ask for more favorable policies or anything. Just level the playing field, remove the obstacles, fill in the potholes that have been put on my road.
But that's now the hardest part, and that's not the hardest question, because when you're talking about filling the potholes and you're talking about balancing out the books, man, somebody's taking a loss. And if 2020 and 2021 has taught me anything, is white people don't like taking losses. Y'all took their loss with the masks, and y'all was up and marching on people's houses to get golf and watermelon seeds back.
Why do you say someone has to lose? Why do you accept that?
I guess that's the mindset that is perceived. Is that
do you have this feeling of this school is losing money to send it somewhere else?
Right. This is the basis of resentment politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone else wins, quote unquote, someone else has to lose.
Well, because it's the argument against, like,
do we accept the perception that it's a zero-sum game?
Oh, I agree with that, because it's like equal pay. It's like when I did the equal pay thing last week, it was like
saying, buying into the narrative of the zero-sum game.
Well, then you know what? I'm not gonna buy into the narrative zero. You know what? Because like I said, it was the same thing with the equal pay, right? Is that men have this perception that when we go against equal pay is, well, why do I have to make less for her to be equal? No, why can't you just pay her more? So you're right. It is the same situation. It's like, well, why must we take away their advantages to balance the book? Why can't you just give them
So keep the schools that are higher there,
right, and
then give more to the lower end schools so they can reach that point.
Right.
They require more to get there, but why take it from someone? So basically, you're saying, that's where you're lowering. That's that teetering, opposed to just bringing one up to the other.
Now, the funds that would have went to that higher school, do you take those funds away? Like, that's the point. Like, that's the question I guess I'm asking.
But now you're lowering that school.
So will that school? So if that school, will that school remain the same if I not take funds away, but the next coming fiscal year, instead of giving that school who's up here $1 million, I gave it to this school to raise up. Will this school still be at this level, or will they drop? Like, those are the economics that I don't know.
But were they using that $1 million to stay at that level?
Right. I mean, these are this is why.
Because that's a 3-hour conversation.
That's a 3-hour conversation.
Right. So because you bring one school district down to help bring this one up, yeah, they might be at that equity point, but it's at a lower point than where they should all be at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then there's that students that have every advantage at home, their parents read to them, their parents are home when they are home instead of their parent being either in prison or at work.
Yeah, see,
working a second job, that student requires less resources to teach than a student who didn't have breakfast that morning, who has never bought a pencil at Target, has notebooks at home, and is shoved in front of a TV with their siblings and their grandmother, if they're lucky to have their grandmother in their house. And they sit at home in front of the TV all summer versus the kid that goes to math camp all summer.
Right.
One of those students costs more to educate in a public school
right.
than the other, and the formula doesn't reflect that.
Right. Well, I've been talking to you gents for almost 2 hours. So if you guys have anything for me, now will be the time. Let's get into it. If you do, if you don't, that'd be great. I'm gonna have you back on again anyway.
I feel like we got a whole lot of other conversations.
We definitely got. Listen, man. This is just the tip of the iceberg for those watching this on YouTube, wherever you're watching. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the first episode, right? With these gents, with other people, we will dive further into it because there's so much of this conversation that we need to get into. Just education alone, we need to get into. We need to have a conversation of millages and who passes, who doesn't passes. We need to get into geography of placements of people. Like there's so many parts of just this downriver conversation. Reverse racism is a part that we need to discuss, that we need to talk about. That's real. That I've seen white people get bullied by black people in downriver. Like these are conversations that we need to have. And if we have them tonight, we'd be talking for 5-6 hours. And I know somebody be mad in somebody's house. So if you guys are all set. All set, Keith.
Yeah, I have one more anecdote to tell you.
Go ahead.
Put it in later. So, I know a family who they're virtual school right now, and they go to a very Caucasian school district. Typically, they go to the most diverse school in that district, but right now they're at home attending class virtually and in one of the definitely more Caucasian schools. And the student, second grader, has one African American in his class. The rest of the students are Caucasian. And it's funny because it's not funny, it's terribly sad, but the other student has a African American teacher, male African American teacher in kindergarten. Incredible and totally rare. An amazing teacher. But anyways, the second grade student, the teacher says, as part of one of their class discussions one day, says, "Tell me about something you fear." And, the students are like, spiders, the dark, the boogeyman, the red goblin, whatever it is. I'm going to give you a guess of what the black student said. She said the cops.
I'm going to say death, but yeah.
She said the cops.
Yeah.
The teacher responded, "Oh, honey, we don't fear the cops. The cops are the good guys." Students' laptop closed. You heard her camera go off. And that camera stayed off for about an hour. She came back. Until she was crying. She was out of class for about a month.
And that right there is a small microcosm of where we're at today in society and understanding of the plight.
And I guarantee you that I won't guarantee. 80% of the students and maybe some of the parents sitting there.
No idea.
That's what happened.
Yeah. Damn. We'll get into that too. We'll definitely got to get into that. That's definitely a conversation we got to have about people of color and the police and the other side of,
But that goes into the oblivious conversation.
Yes, it definitely does. Damien, how about you, sir? Any last words, last thoughts?
No, I'm good. I'm just ready for the next one.
All right. Well,
this is great. You keep going. You're a great spokesperson, and you're so passionate about these things. And such a thinker, and you challenge people and challenge yourself, and I think it's good that you can lead things like this.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you guys so much because it was because of you guys' encouragement for all these years to not give up, to not, settle for average, to not settle for mediocrity, and having many conversations with you too about just doing something greater, trying to do something that's out of the comfort zone. That's definitely it. And being able to have these conversations with you guys over many years, because you guys are smart enough to have these conversations for many years. Because for those who do not know, I do not have these talks with a lot of people because unfortunately a lot of you guys are not smart. You're not smart enough to have these race conversations. I know if that may make you mad, I'm sorry, but you're not. You are too dumb to have these race conversations, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to have these. So thank you again for you guys taking your time out for being here. We're definitely going to do this again. Definitely gonna have more topics. The next thing I plan to do topic wise, it's a front of action, right? I'm gonna write an essay on front of action, put that on the page, and definitely if you guys gonna hop on another recording or other people that who are against the front of action, bring them on, more the merrier, so we can have these talks because I'm down for that. So front of action is gonna be the next one. White privilege, police brutality, all those things. So many things coming down the works on Ask Black Dude. So I'm excited for Damian Matthias. For Damian Damian Matthews. I can't do that. This is public forum. This is going on YouTube. Somebody will try to figure it out. For Damian, I'm an Aries. That's all people need to know. For Damian Mathis, for Keith Brown, I'm Lamont Powell. Thank you once again for joining us on As a Black Dude. Take it easy.